Good morning. I light the chalice this morning with words from Joanne Macy. There's a song that wants to sing itself through us. We just have to be available. Maybe the song that is to be sung through us is the most beautiful requiem for an irreplaceable planet. Or maybe it's a song of joyous rebirth as we create a new culture that doesn't destroy its world. But in any case, there's absolutely no excuse for our making our passionate love for our world dependent on what we think of its health, whether we think it's going to go on forever or not. Those are just thoughts anyway. But this moment, you're alive. So you can just dial up the magic of that at any time.
Good morning. Bienvenidos. Welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Church of San Antonio. My name is Cheryl Lardy, and I've been a member here since 2001. I currently serve on the Green Sanctuary team, which is presenting the service today. First UU San Antonio believes in a universal love that binds us in mutual care and affection in our work for justice for all, our planet, and our faith, which is all-inclusive, and all means all. Wherever you are on your faith's journey, you are welcome here. We are developing new ways of distance communication and hope for the following: that we become more adept with technology, that we find valuable ways to stay connected, that we are reminded we don't go to church, we are the church. Somos la Iglesia. Thank you for joining us.
This precious web of life on earth, inheritance of all at birth, has every blessing freely given to ya. It's a fragile, holy ground, a treasure to be handed down. Our overflowing hearts sing hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Will we be proud to pass along a healthy planet still so strong? We are here to bring that question to ya. Our faith is strong, we face the truth that climate change needs no more proof. Will our descendants share our hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. trusting to ya. We'll work together to survive so we can keep the earth alive. Our hopeful hearts declare a hallelujah. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
If you have a joy or sorrow, you are invited to enter it on the chat stream. As the music plays, may we pause for a moment of silence to enter our expressions and to be fully present to all that is held in our hearts this morning.
It's time for our offertory. We Unitarian Universalists know that the story of evolution is not yet over. Evolutionary change at all levels, cosmic, planetary, biological, cultural, will continue well into the future. And we humans bear a responsibility for how the story will continue here on Earth. In support of our own evolving congregation and its many interests and involvements, the offering will now be given and received. We invite you to make an offering on our online giving portal through the link shown on the screen.
We are here with a warning, for there's no time to lose. We are facing a challenge we cannot refuse, for the planet is in peril and we all have heard the news. Will it be life or death? We're the ones who must choose. With true compassion as our guide, our work for the earth will extend planet-wide. We will turn despair into delight as we're turning the wrong to right. We all know global warming will be hard to control, but a climate disaster threatens to unfold. The tornadoes and the hurricanes take ever greater tolls, while the ice keeps on melting at both of the poles. compassion as our guide. Our work for the earth will extend planet-wide. We will turn despair into delight as we're turning the wrong to right. Yes, the crisis is here and we cannot close our eyes. We have all seen the truth in spite of all the lies. For the evidence has mounted, though some still try to deny. Do we know where we'll go when the sea levels rise? With true compassion as our guide, our work for the earth will extend planet-wide. We will turn despair into delight as we're turning the wrong to right. Will our grandchildren suffer? Will their children breathe free? Will their grandchildren sail on oceans that are clean? Will they grieve for all the animals they will never see? Will the world be a desert or will it be green? With true compassion as our guide, our work for the earth will extend planet-wide. We will turn despair into delight as we're turning the wrong to right.
This is not a drill. My name is Greta Thunberg. We are living in the beginning of a mass extinction. Our climate is breaking down. Children like me are giving up their education to protest. But we can still fix this. You can still fix this. To survive, we need to stop burning fossil fuels. But this alone will not be enough. Lots of solutions are talked about. But what about the solution that is right in front of us? I'll let my friend George explain.
There is a magic machine that sucks carbon out of the air, costs very little, and builds itself. It's called a tree. A tree is an example of a natural climate solution. Mangroves, peat bogs, jungles, marshes, seabeds, kelp forests, swamps, coral reefs, they take carbon out of the air and lock it away. Nature is a tool we can use to repair our broken climate. These natural climate solutions could make a massive difference.
Pretty cool, right?
But only if we also leave fossil fuels in the ground.
Here's the crazy part. Right now, we are ignoring them. We spend 1,000 times more on global fossil fuel subsidies than on natural-based solutions.
Natural climate solutions get just 2% of all the money used on tackling climate breakdown.
This is your money. It is your taxes and your savings.
Even more crazy, right now when we need nature the most, we're destroying it faster than ever.
Up to 200 species are going extinct every single day.
Much of the Arctic ice is gone. Most of our wild animals have gone. Much of our soil has gone.
So what should we do?
What should you do?
It's simple. We need to protect, restore, and fund. Protect. Tropical forests are being cut down at the rate of 30 football pitches a minute.
Where nature is doing something vital, we must protect it.
Restore. Much of our planet has been damaged.
But nature can regenerate, and we can help ecosystems bounce back.
Fund.
We need to stop funding things that destroy nature and pay for things that help it.
It is that simple. Protect, restore, fund.
This can happen everywhere. Many people have already begun using natural climate solutions. We need to do it on a massive scale.
You can be part of this.
Vote for people who defend nature.
Share this video. Talk about this.
All around the world, there are amazing movements fighting for nature. Join them.
Everything counts. What you do counts.
A Song of the Soul of the Earth by Susan Podobradsky. A true story sings the song of the soul of the earth, and we feel it, deep in our bodies and deep in our souls, because the song of the soul of the earth is our song too. If you ride your breath and quiet your mind, you will hear the heartbeat of the earth. You will feel the ebb and flow of the tides, and the push and pull of the blood beneath your skin. The air you breathe out joins the breezes that circle the earth, and when you breathe in, the air in China stirs ever so slightly. Where do we begin? Where do we end? When we take in the things around us, what we leave behind changes everything. A mindful moment sings the song of the soul of the earth, and we feel it, deep in our bodies and deep in our souls, because the song of the soul of the earth is our song too.
Not too long ago, I finished reading the 2014 book, The Sixth Extinction, An Unnatural History, in which author Elizabeth Colbert discusses extinction, invasive species, ocean acidification, and how humans, in general, are very proficient in destroying everything they touch. I did find one quote, however, that I found particularly relevant to our discussion today. By burning through coal and oil deposits, humans are putting carbon back into the air that has been sequestered for tens, in most cases hundreds, of millions of years. In the process, we are running geologic history not only in reverse, but at warp speed. The modern increase in global carbon emissions is part of a larger trend of human alteration of the natural world. The history of the world is generally split into a variety of time measurements, but I'd like to focus particularly on epochs. An epoch is often described as being longer than an age but shorter than a period, which is a fancy scientific way of saying a very, very long time. The current ecological epoch is known as the Holocene, which began with the end of the last glacial period and continues on to this day. The Holocene is typically marked by the rise and proliferation of humans across the globe. A proposed new epoch, however, and one that I find to be altogether more fitting, is the Anthropocene. Coming from the ancient Greek anthropos, meaning human, and scene, meaning new, this epoch is defined by human alterations to the natural world. There is no yet agreed upon start date for this new epoch, with some arguing that it began as early as the Neolithic Revolution, when humans first invented agriculture. Yet others say the Anthropocene began more recently, with the Industrial Revolution, when human impact on the natural world dramatically increased. Regardless of when it began, I think there is one major takeaway from the Anthropocene. When you've messed up the planet so much that you need to create a whole new period of time for it, you know that things have gotten bad. There is no place the consequences of the Anthropocene are better reflected than the global warming trend that plagues the world today. It is no small secret that global warming contributes to a plethora of environmental crises. The daily addition of roughly 32.5 billion metric tons of carbon into the atmosphere is responsible for the warming trend that has led to rising sea levels, habitat destruction, and those ungodly hot Texas summers. When we think of environmental destruction, we often picture corporations pulled straight out of the Lorax, spewing their chemical concoctions and poisoning the air just to serve some capitalist agenda. A lot of carbon emissions, however, actually come from just you and me. On average, the typical U.S. household emits 48 tons of CO2 per year. Multiply that number by 128 million households, and you find that the national neighborhood of death emits around 6 billion tons of CO2 annually. In order to understand where these emissions come from, however, we need to first understand the idea of the carbon footprint. A carbon footprint is a measure of how much carbon dioxide each individual is emitting into the atmosphere. You may be surprised just how many of your daily activities contribute to your carbon footprint. Eating food accounts for 30% of household emissions, with foods like beef producing nearly 7 pounds of CO2 per serving. Refrigerators produce roughly 727 pounds of CO2 per household. A more obvious source of emissions are vehicles, with the average car emitting roughly 4.6 metric tons of CO2 per year. If I had driven to church today, I'd have emitted over 2 pounds of CO2. Even tasks as mundane as using the internet contribute to global carbon emissions, with the average person emitting 400 grams of carbon a year from phone use, a number that seems tiny until you consider that 4 billion people across the globe use the internet regularly. The burden of a carbon footprint can, at times, seem overwhelming. Many parts of our lives that we ordinarily pay no mind to are, in fact, incredibly destructive. What change can we make that does not also compromise our way of life? In fact, there are many ways that individuals can reduce their carbon footprint without sacrificing their day-to-day lives. Doing regular maintenance on your car can ensure your car gets good gas mileage, reducing wasteful emissions. Carpooling and taking public transportation can reduce the number of vehicles on the road. Eating less meat and eating more vegetarian and vegan options, turning down the heat and AC at home, recycling and composting efficiently, using reusable shopping bags, and installing efficient insulation are all ways to reduce your carbon footprint at home. Aside from reducing your personal carbon footprint, joining local environmentalist groups, such as the Green Team here at First UU, is a great way to encourage others in the community to take steps to reduce their own carbon footprints. By limiting our personal carbon footprints, we take the first step towards creating a cleaner world. Yet at the end of the day, the actions of individuals changing themselves will not be enough to avert the global warming crisis. That's not to say that the actions of the individual are unimportant. No revolution can begin without changing the minds of the public. But even if every American ditched the concept of modern housing and started living on the streets like the homeless, there would still be over 26 billion metric tons of CO2 being emitted from massive corporations and government ventures. As UUs, we are confronted with a difficult question. How can we affirm the worth and dignity of every person when we are unable to even affirm the dignity of the very planet we live on? It becomes our responsibility then, both as residents of Earth and as UUs, to demand social change from our government. This means going to protests and rallies, speaking at town halls, and using social media to spread the word. I was happy that the Green Team was able to speak before San Antonio City Council in favor of the now-passed Climate Change Action Plan for our city, which commits San Antonio to reach net zero carbon emissions by 2050. While as individuals our impact may be infinitesimal, when we come together as people and as UUs, our impact in San Antonio and the world can be dramatic. I'd like to close with another quote from Elizabeth Colbert that I think aptly describes the truth of our 7th UU principle that we are a part of an independent web of existence and that our human influence is responsible for a real conundrum. Humans, nevertheless, remain dependent on the Earth's biological and geochemical systems. By disrupting these systems, cutting down tropical rainforests, altering the composition of the atmosphere, acidifying the oceans, we are putting our own survival in danger. In this age of the Anthropocene, we must each choose if the world of the future will be one of our making or of our own destruction. Thank you.
As we extinguish our flame, let us go forth with these words from Joanne Macy. Because the relationship between self and world is reciprocal, it's not a matter of first getting enlightened or saved and then acting. As we work to heal the earth heals us. No need to wait. As we care enough to take risks, we loosen the grip of ego and our small selves and begin to come home to our planet and to our true nature. May it be so.